same. Did you have a question?
No, when you say remnant, you meant the black people, right?
Yes. Yes.
Now, a remnant. Now, you say a remnant. You mean a remnant here, or in Africa, or just a remnant as a whole?
I'm talking earthly here. Okay?
Oh, wow. That's not much.
No. But we can get into some things about who these people are or where they are, because I happen to believe that it is us, those that had that they brought our ancestry over here, those or that our ancestry that went through this oppression, because I figured that is all part of the alchemy process. See, and the ancestors that were here already that they oppressed. So that is that alchemy process. That that's a part of that. And those who survive that is the ones that will reign.
Okay, I'm just coming in at the tail end. Survive what, if you don't mind?
The alchemy process. The many methods that they have used to reduce our population, because they're not recreating themselves. So they have to, in order to survive, if they're not producing, then how are they going to survive if they don't decrease our population? So I mean, if you really don't think, you got to know what time it is. You got to know what time it is.
So why don't they do like what they have done in the past? Probably start a war to decrease population. It's because of the weapons that they have now?
But see, you guys, the thing is that we're no longer in a physical battle. It's not about the physical anymore. They've already, it's about a spiritual thing now. Yes. They've done everything they could, and it's worked. They gave us the Willie Lynch thing, okay? And that worked for, but the things that they have used are no longer working, because now, as I said, the spiritual, we've gotten, we're getting the influx of the spiritual, so those physical means are no longer working, so they have to attack us now through the electromagnetic fields, because that is our power, the energies. They know this, so now the war has reached a level of spiritual. They went in, they raped the tombs of our ancestors. They've studied the DNA, the genetic material. They understand. So now they know what they need to do in order to keep us from reaching our empowerment. They have to, mix up those signals. They have to, divert us from accessing that spiritual energy. So it's moved to another level. It's moved from the physical to another level. They have to keep on improving ways, to do it.
Would you say, because you keep saying that everything is happening on a dual principle.
Right.
So them being physical, on a physical level, could it be like, what she was talking about, could it be that although it is on a spiritual level, but while they're still operating on a physical level, they still keep us here because they need us to keep operating on that physical level? Yeah,
those of us that are still, it's okay. They have many methods. They have many means of using, just like I said. Where do you think they're getting this melatonin from? Okay. That's one method. Another method is to use and pimp the energies, for their own empowerment. That's another method. Another thing is, they're killing us off. They got all kind of ways, This is a mass, anyway, by any means necessary for them, okay? And those that survive are the ones that they are continuing to try to keep blind or fooled into participating in their mass rituals, every time you celebrate their holidays, every time you participate on a mass level in the things that they, celebrate, the Olympics, boy, that's one of the biggest rituals there ever is, or ever was. See? And then we right up here, you know, empowering all of that. See? Why do you think they had, what's his name, Muhammad Ali come out, you know, to light the torch? You know? Oh, this is not just, oh, we just suddenly like you guys, or we're, you know, we're giving homage to you guys. You know, they're energizing themselves. You know, you can argue the cloning, you know, the cloning that everybody says going on, you know, because they can't take our energy. Have you ever wondered why they freaked out because of Freaknik? You know, that was a nice event until they sent, you know, the bad element in there. They denigrated it, okay? But they could not stand. I remember just right up here in West End, on Friday nights, the young folks used to like to gather at the park. They would send helicopters, police cars to break that up because they can't take our collective energy.
And also with the Million Man March,
Yeah.
they had to get out of town there.
They couldn't take
could not
it.
take that massiveness of energy amongst us.
You know, so that is the reason why they, they don't like us grouping up, because that's a devastating thing for them, because we send out these energies that is detrimental. We are opposites, you guys. They send out these energies that they can't withstand. So this is one of the reasons why they say the cloning is going on. That's the way, because once you've cloned someone, then you remove that energy, that principle, you know, and they can, you know, that's a way of removing that element that they can't deal with, and you know, without it being obvious, you know.
Now, who are they cloning? Aren't they cloning themselves? They're cloning themselves.
They call it walk-ins or something like that, you know, walk-ins, where you can just, you know, so. They clone themselves like Clinton, you know. Who was that? I think it was Bobby that was saying that when you sing with the bulbous nose, the red nose, that's the real him. But when you sing with the nose that's not red, that's the clone one. Okay. The Pope, they were saying the Pope, how all of a sudden the Pope done lost some mold. So when they clone themselves, they keep their host. See. But when they clone us, they kill our host. See. So when they clone themselves, that's to have a double. To have somebody that can stand in. See, but when they clone us, they would get rid of the host and use us for, you know, for other purposes. See, so believe me, this is a diabolical mind we're dealing with, and we best understand that. And if we stay in denial, we can stay in denial if we want to. You know what I'm saying? You know, because it's already been prophesized.
But they show all of this stuff on TV.
It's so obvious. I mean, it's so obvious.
One day they got a show where the man is able to go back in time whenever he feels like it. And they need all of these shows. The government is in charge of all of this stuff.
Yeah. And just like I said about Art Bell, you guys see he's no longer. He's gone.
And now they got this strange music that they play.
Yeah, he's gone. You know, he didn't book. He knows what time it is. You know. They said there's a crystal city right there in the heart of Africa, where you know, black folks, only white folks go. Only way you go there is as a servant. You know, they're to serve. You know, that's another thing they do with the clones. You know, so you don't have to believe this. I know it sounds unbelievable. I know it sounds, but I'm not the only one saying this. You know, I've got my information from, you know, spiritual, you know, inspiration, but also from other teachers, you know, from books, you know, so it's just not a theory of mine. I'm putting together different information from different sources, okay? Yes?
You saying it was already been prophesied about who? A recurring prophecy. The recurring prophecy is that, like I said, that's the Christ energy. You know, the Christ of Jesus that they look to return, you know, that is still another story that they have taken from some of our ancient past, you know, about how this Christ, like I read here about how Set or Saturn when Saturn was at close proximity to the Earth, our ancestors reigned with all these powers, you know, and as he fell, we fell, you know, but he's prophesied to return. And you know, this is the Christ prophecy that I'm talking about. But you know, but separated from the Jesus story. You know, but that's just another story that they pimped from this story. See, that's you know, the ancient texts or information or tombs that they went in and got that story from, and you know, polluted it, and changed it enough to keep us for food. Yeah, for their purposes. So, but every prophecy is the same prophecy. It's a recurring theme. It's always close. In the last series, I did, let's see, because we had, I could show tapes then. I could show video films, and we showed the movie Dark Crystal. I don't know how many of you seen Dark Crystal. It's a little animated story, but it's our story.
I saw it in 1982, and I thought it because I took my grandson, and I thought it was just on purpose.
Yeah.
When you realize
they killed him. Yeah. It's nothing but our story. Look at it. And see, this is where they put the information. They'll put it in comic books. They'll put it where the intellectuals won't go.
Cartoons.
Yeah, cartoons. You know, it's all in the movies, but you've got to have your first eye open to see the real deal. You got to be reading between the lines. You know, because they put it in the movies. That's why they put out the movie The Matrix. You know, but you got to be able to understand. In The Matrix, they use the computer, but in real life, it's the subconscious. Okay? Because that's where our power comes from. So, you know, they used the computer, but it was really the subconscious. You got to be able to make the jump as to what they're really symbolizing.
So when you go to the movies, you can't go there with the idea.
With the idea to being entertained, absolutely.
You should have your pad.
You should have your notebook and pad. This is why they put out the movie Mission to Mars. Come on. And let me tell you something. Even the conscious people sat there and laughed at the end of that movie because even the people that were non-conscious laughed at that movie because you're going to put a face on Mars and you're going to put a nose thinner than...
Wait a minute, now you didn't get the metaphysical meaning of that.
What's that?
They got that black man up there.
Yeah.
And they did kill him.
Yeah.
And he was the one who had to do that harmony and go on his computer and realize that was strands of DNA. Music
right.
Out to make that thing open up.
Open up, right.
And
you
he was jet black.
Yeah, yep. And so it'll tell
I
you.
always have to take the black man.
They're putting it in our face.
Every time there's always a black man that
Black man that's got, and even the movie Independence Day.
Right.
You know, with Will Smith. Okay? You know what they're looking at? They have to have a black Messiah.
But the black man that had the brains enough to figure out on the computer, but he would go in that ship and risk his life, you know.
Right.
What was that movie? Green Mile?
Yeah, I didn't see that one, but I heard that was, yeah. I went to see that one.
About the brother that has some powers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, this stuff is, you know, what you have to do, like I said, you know, and like they're talking about, you know, that third eye, they're calling it the third eye, the first eye. This is what has to open now. This is what is opening now. See? And you have to look at things now, like I said, from a universal perspective. Stop looking at it from a literal, physical perspective, else you're going to miss the whole picture. Because they're putting it in our faces. You know, and they're doing that purposely to gauge, you know, who's conscious and who's not. You know, they tell you, don't call into those radio programs, you know, they want to know. They want to know who is, you know, conscious enough to see what they really are putting out there. See? So they're master at diversion. They're master at diversion because they know wherever we put our energy is what we're empowering. You know, so they're going to tell us to look over there when we should be looking over here.
They say right, you be going right.
Yeah, they say look up, you look down. We are opposites. Don't let anybody tell you we are the same because we're not.
What?
Yes.
Do you have any general thoughts on hip-hop culture? Because it seems to me it's very interesting when you see that we only represent 13% of the population here in America, but on MTV And the major consumers of black music are white people. When the white people watch MTV, they want to see us. So what are your general thoughts?
Oh, I mean, you know, they're trying to emulate everything that we are. You know, they want to replace us. You know, they want to emulate everything. Then they'll tell us, just like I said about, this dual principle, everything happening as above, so below, on its opposite. See, so what they will do when we get into something like the hip hop or whatever, they're going to denigrate it. They're going to make it seem like it's bad. Something's wrong with us doing it. You know, but at the same time, they're embracing it. You know, they're trying to claim it. You know, I showed another video, the last series, where they're actually mummifying themselves now. You know, right after the funeral service, they're wrapping them up in mummies. You know, they're dogs, they're animals. You know, they're putting themselves up in the mountains. What kind of message do you think they're trying to send out? Yeah, they're the ones, you know, they're the point and say, you know, we're the ones, you know, they're emulating everything we do, and then they're going to try to claim it.
But that's their pattern.
Yeah, for themselves, you know. At the same time, they went in there and raided and tore down, you know, what our ancestors did. So anything that they do, and like...
Did you happen to catch that TV show the other night when he was blind and then going into Egypt and into the caves? Did you happen to see that? It was on TV?
I didn't see that, no. Now, and I like to catch all of the, you know, all that, because I like to videotape it, you know, and use it. Because I did show one where they were showing their little coat, you know, and the woman, she was blonde and she was representing ISIS. And then, you know, of course they had their priest. The priestess was representing ISIS. She was blonde. But the priest, of course, was dark. He was dark. He had dark. He was a white man, but he had dark hair. You know, everything about him was dark. You see. So, you know what? It's not so much the details. It's not so much the literal meanings. It's the symbolism. It's the symbolic meanings, you guys. And they have understood this, you know. And this is what we need to understand. You have to, you know, it's what it symbolizes. It's what it signals. It's what we have to tune into. You know, we're going to have to supersede the literal, because that is what has kept us grounded. That is what's kept us from accessing the fullness of the information. You know, we have narrowed our vision. You see, and so you know, you don't have to look at every literal detail, but you can see what they're trying to see. Even in the movie The Matrix, you know, somebody said that was the best black movie that came out, because everybody in it, either they were black or they were dark.
Because they didn't understand the metaphysics.
They didn't understand the metaphysics. So it's what it symbolizes. You start seeing that when you see Will Smith, you know. And like another thing been telling my class is that when you're thinking individual, you're thinking on a physical level. When you're thinking collective, you're thinking on a spiritual level. So when they talk about Jesus, you know, we're not talking about one man coming to save the world. We're talking about a people. That story is a story of a people, not a man. And see, when they tell you, when they make you believe that's a story about a man, they are trivializing the impact of the significance of what it really represents. You know? So you can't think spiritual and think about an individual. You have to think about a collective. And that's what I'm telling you. When you look in the Bible and you see one word capitalized in one sentence, and the next day you'll read down, you'll see the same word, but it's not capitalized. When there's not capitalized, they're talking about a physical, an individual. But when it's capitalized, they're talking spiritual. Then they're talking collective. See? You have to understand how to make that jump. You know, that's why it's so confusing. You know, because they're expressing the duality. What they're talking about. So that confuses you because you don't understand it. You're reading it, you know, I wonder why that's capitalized. Oh, well, you know, it don't mean nothing. It means something. Everything means something. Everything happens for a reason. You know. There's no such thing as coincidence. No such thing as coincidence. It's all about the energies. And it's all about directing those energies, you know. And these gods that they're talking about is nothing but a symbolic, you know, it's just a symbolic of a principle of energies. That's all it is. See? So, you know, we have to understand that. And we have to stop. We have to come up out of that physical, because like I said, if you continue to think on that level, you're going to continue to be confused, and you're not going to understand what the full significance of what is really happening, you know. So I want to quickly get to the homework assignment, although you guys aren't doing them anyway. But this one here, I'm going to give you something that is because this is the reason why I'm using astrology. It's not so much astrology, it's the symbolism that I want you to start understanding, you know. Because like I said, when you look at symbols, then it's a subconscious thing. You're not just thinking of one thing. You're thinking of a concept, you know. You can mark a symbol, and that brings a whole concept, you know. And so what I wanted to do was to try to get you acclimated. That's why I'm asking you to look at these energies and look what's unfolding in the world, you know, according to what the energies are. So what I want to do here is it's called the mixing of elements, and this lesson is energy interaction. The mixing of elements and modes equal interaction. Now I'm going to start with the fire sign of Aries. You know, Aries is the fire sign. It's a cardinal sign. Remember, we talked about, you know, the modes. And that's a cardinal sign. So this is the sign, the mode. Remember I told you there's three modes. There's the mutable, the fixed, and the cardinal. The mutable is what blends or adapts. The fixed is what sets. And the cardinal is what leads. In other words, the cardinal initiates. The fixed will set that into motion, and the mutable will adapt it to the whole.
What are the four cardinal signs? What are they?
The four cardinal signs are Aries, which represents spring. It represents the equinoxes. Aries, which is spring. Cancer, which is summer. Libra, which is fall. And Capricorn, which is winter. Okay? And Aries is the fire sign. And remember when I told you the fire is for Mother Earth, but for us that means passion. Okay? So the fire sign of Aries, the mode is cardinal. And see, a lot of this is review, but it's at an angle. It's going to be at an angle, which we call a sextile. This is the angle with the other signs. And this is what produces certain reactions, in other words. The sextile is like at a 60-degree angle. You know, like two planets at a 60-degree angle is what you call a sextile. That demonstrates excitement, okay? So when you look at the sign of Aries, it's a fire sign in a cardinal mode, and it's in sextile with the two air signs. See, the two air signs is what the fire will be in sextile at a 60-degree angle with. So when you see two planets at a 60-degree angle, they're in excitement with each other. See? Yes.
How many air signs are there?
There's three. There's three signs to each element. Fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And then the earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. The air signs, and see, when you're talking fire, I say you're talking passion. When you're talking earth, you're talking sensitivity. Okay? And then when you're talking air, you're talking mental or cerebral. When you see air signs, that's a mental sign. And that's Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. And then the water He's emotional. And the water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Okay? Yes.
When you say the sextile for like Aries, the two air signs, that will be Aquarius and Gemini with
Absolutely.
a 60-degree.
Yeah, absolutely. There you see, that's what I want you to get. I want you to be able to picture that. That's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking the two Gemini. Uh-oh. It would be at a 60-degree angle with Gemini, and it also will be at a 60-degree angle with Aquarius. Now, can anybody tell me why we're not including Libra?
Because it's opposite.
Very good. Very good. And this is the symbol for opposites. So it would be opposite to Libra. See? And remember, when you bring two opposites together, you create a whole. So we talked about Aries as the warrior, or the spiritual warrior, and its opposite Libra, which is the sign of peace. So that's how we get our fighting for justice. When you bring those two concepts, those two opposites together, that's how you get fighting for justice. We can't use it. If we just use fighting on its own, or if we're just too peaceful, that means we won't stand up for ourselves, see? So you have to bring the Libra with the Aries to say, I will fight and stand up for myself. I'm not going to just totally be peaceful where people are just going to push me around, see? So if you use them on its own, it could be detrimental, but when you put the whole, balance those opposites, you get the full concept of what's going on here. See? And then there's another angle, it's called a trine. And that denotes harmony. So when you find the three planets that are trine, that's when they're in the same element. When all the planets are in the three fire signs, they're at trine with one another. That produces harmony. That produces harmony. This is how you get to understand how the energies interact, you guys. And you can go down the line with that. And then the next one would be Taurus. Taurus is a fixed sign. Taurus is in sextile with, would have to be two of the water signs. Because earth and water are the two that blends the best, and fire and air are the two that blends the best. You're going to find your opposite signs in the opposite element. This is fire, Aries is fire, Libra is air. See? Taurus is earth. So the opposite sign of Taurus is Scorpio. That's water. And they're in a sextile. That means it's in a sextile with the other two water signs, which would be Cancer and Pisces. See? And it's in its opposition with Scorpio. And it's at its trine, of course, with the other earth signs, Capricorn and Virgo. See? So when you see those three earth elements interacting together, then there's harmonious energy unfolding. When you see this Taurus energy interacting with the Cancer and Pisces, then there's excitement produced in that interaction. And then when you see this Taurus energy interacting with the Scorpio energy, that's opposition. And here we have growth. Taurus represents growth, where Scorpio represents the death and rebirth. Okay, that's the regenerative process. And then we go down to Gemini, which is an air sign, and it's a mutable sign. It's a mutable sign, so it would be in sextile with, if it's an air sign, it'll be in sextile with two of the fire signs. You know which one that is? It probably would help to identify what's it in opposition with. It has to be a Sagittarius. Sagittarius. It's in opposition with Sagittarius. So what are the other two fire signs that it would be an excitement with? Aries and Leo.
You said excitement. I thought the sextile would bring the excitement.
That's what I just said.
Okay, because Aries. Oh, so you had an air sign in sextile. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, the air sign of your Gemini, a mutable sign is in. Oh, and I forgot to mention the squares, the friction. Do you know what causes the friction?
That's what I want to ask.
Okay, it's when this is a mode. This is the mode cardinal. So when the same modes are in interaction with each other, then that's what produces the friction. That's a 90-degree angle. In other words, the cardinal signs of the zodiac, when they're interacting with each other, it's at a 90-degree angle, which produces friction. Okay? The mutables with each other, you know, the fixed with each other. That's why I'm always talking about that fixed cross of August the 11th, you guys. When all the planets were lined up in the 4 fixed signs, there was nothing going on there but oppositions and friction between the planets, demonstrating that regenerative period. The purging.
You said that, okay, going back down to the mutable, you connected that Gemini with that Sagittarius at the end. What was your last comment on that?
I don't know.
With the Gemini, and you said the opposite was Sagittarius?
Yes.
What you saying?
Yes, which is the fire. It's a fire sign.
And who is the sextile?
The sextiles, Aries and Leo.
That means it's excitable?
Yes. That means when it's interacting with those energies, it's an excitement. Yes.
Okay, when you say the friction, can you give me a little idea in a way, you know, like you said the mode of just any one of the signs, like, you know, I mean any one of the fixed, mutable, or cardinal signs, and give me an idea. Like I know in the cardinal signs you have, like you said, initiators or leaders. I think of one having the energy of like Aries, the one, let's see, initiate. If you can, I'll let you say because I got.
Okay. And see, when I finish this, we're only going to have to do this 6 times, and all these will balance out. Yeah. See, so what you see here, because we've already got Aries and Libra, Taurus, Scorpio, because these are always going to be the opposite signs are always going to be in the same modes. Okay. And the opposite signs are always going to be in the opposite element. Like I said, fire and air, earth and water. Okay? So once you understand that, and this is what I'm trying to get you to see how they work with each other. You know, the air is going to work in excitement with the fire, unless it's in opposition to it. See? And the earth is going to work in opposition to the water, unless, you know, it's in sextile with it. You understand? You know, and all the modes are always going to be in friction with one another. You know, and that's why I keep talking about that fixed cross of August the 11th, that signal, that term of energy. And then we go down to Cancer, which is a cardinal sign, which demonstrates leadership qualities, initiates, and it's going to be in sextile with the earth signs, but it's in opposition with Capricorn. That's an earth sign. So the other 2 earth signs would be Taurus and Virgo. See? And of course it'll be in friction with the other cardinal signs, you know, which are, like I said, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. When those 4 interact, they're going to be, the mutables are, the fixed are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And then the mutables are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. That's all 12. Okay? And then we got the Leo, which is a fixed sign. It's going to be in opposition to Aquarius, an air sign. They're both fixed. So it's going to be in sextile with the other two air signs. Anybody tell me? Gemini?
Aquarius?
Libra
and Aquarius. What, excuse me, if she was asking that symbol next to the earth, what is that symbol?
Next to, oh, here? That's Capricorn.
Okay, yeah.
That's mine. That's my symbol for Capricorn, the best I can get to it. And then the last one we need to look at will be Virgo. Opposite Pisces, which is the water, earth and water. So that means it's going, and that's a beautiful sign. And it's going to be in sextile with
It's going to be Virgo.
Scorpio. It will be Cancer and Scorpio. So that represents the whole zodiac. See? And like I said, understand or overstand that this is how you see the interaction of energies. And this is how we get to once we understand how they interact, then we'll understand how to use that and make it work for us. Okay. Is it over? Oh, it's not? Okay. So, that's it. Now we can just go into question until the time, that is over. We can just find some questions and answers.
I'd like to throw something at the class, if I may.
Okay.
While that burns, that burns. Let me go get it.
Oh, okay. Anybody got any questions?
Okay, in your birth chart, okay, if you have like certain houses where you don't have any planets at all, how does that affect you on a whole?
I get that question asked a lot. I really do. Just because there's no planet there, it doesn't mean that it's not having an effect on you. There's still energy in there. See, your houses, when I talk about your house cups, see, this is that August 11th fixed cross, you guys. I did a chart on that. You can see it's in a cross. All those planets are sitting in those fixed signs. And but if you look here, okay, this is the horizon line. This represents the horizon line. And like I said, whatever sign is rising over the horizon line at your time of birth, this represents your rising sign. And you put that in the first house. And then you follow the other signs in their order till you fill out that chart. That's how you make up your chart. Now, but see, this is what you call a house cup. So we got Leo ruling that house cups, that first house. And then, of course, you got Virgo after that ruling the second house. You got Libra ruling the third house. You see, on around. So when you don't have planets in those houses, it still flavors those areas. In other words, that energy is still activated. It can still be activated by a planet in relationship, just like I demonstrated here. So it's not focusing on a certain planet, but it still is flavoring that part of your life with that energy. See? So it still has an effect.
This is an aside.
Oh, okay.
Nothing about astrology.
Oh, okay.
Something about weather lineage.
Oh, okay. Well, we that came into our discussion.
We're in Gemini now, right?
We're in Gemini. It just moved into Gemini, out of Taurus. And we had that big planetary alignment in Taurus. And like I said, because we are in a redevelopment phase or a crucifixion stage, that means we're redefining everything now, from a physical to a spiritual level. And so when the energy was in that lineup of Taurus and all those planets were lined up in Taurus, see, that demonstrated a redefinition of what we value, in all the areas that the planets, whatever the planets indicate. So the sun just moved out of Taurus when we were redefining our values. This was supposed to be y'all's homework assignment. And then it moved into the sign of Gemini, which is the sign of understanding. So what I was trying to get you to do is tell me from redefining your values in Taurus, what type of understanding are you seeing coming up in this Gemini energy now?
He last night.
Okay, give it to me.
Well, brother of team, first of all, is anybody in here over 53 years old?
Oh, 53.
Might have permission to speak. Thank you. I was in the chat room last night. Some brother from New York, of course, was looking for a threesome. He was looking for. And I got to put the word up here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. He was looking for another woman, but the woman had to be
Bisexual.
okay. Well, I'm looking at this Willie Lynch stuff. Brother Tim hit me with this about a year ago, and the Valentine was here. It really knocked me in the head. The more a foreigner knows about the language of another country, the more he is able to move through all levels of that society. The movie Malcolm X. First place they took him was to the dictionary. So I saw this word last night in the chat room. I'm saying, whoa. So I said, wait a minute. Bisexual. Of course, I had to look up sex. You'd be surprised what that tells you. You'll be having it all the time. Because I'm the male sex, she's the female sex. Okay? That has nothing to do with procreation. Nothing. Okay? Bisexual. That's a hermaphrodite.
What?
Bi means two. Sex means I'm male, you a female. So if you're bisexual, you're a hermaphrodite. So ask him, you're looking for a hermaphrodite? Of course, the brother didn't like it, but I asked the question, number one. So he went off on me. So I said, man, look in your dictionary, look up sex, and you should know that bi means two. It's a hermaphrodite. So they lied to us again. They say that this is the person who likes both ways.
Yeah.
You know, but see, sex has nothing to do with procreation. Nothing. Nothing. Look in your dictionary when you get home. Look up sex. I'm the male sex. She's the female sex. Okay. But if you go to your Bible, there's a whole lot of begetting in the Bible. Okay. So do you understand what I'm getting at here? Okay. This has nothing to do with homosexuality. And plenty of people have told you there's no sex between homosexuals. That's mutual masturbation. Okay? So they did it to us again. We weren't aware. We're not paying attention. But last night, she said there's energy move. I said, wait a minute. She heard her today.
Right.
Because the word it hit me. The Spirit said, hey, take a look at that word. And I went to the dictionary and looked up.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Well, I just look up
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So they lied to us.
I'm happy you
They act
got that
sex.
out there, man.
What's his name? Brother came here. Culture bandits. Dale Jones said, I don't want to say this for the ladies. They done messed up. Okay? Yeah, well, they did. Because that word comes from an ancient ritual of planting crops in the ground. That's in the ground. This is a stick. Put a hole in the ground. You drop in the seeds and cover the dirt. Put the dirt over the seeds. You know what that is called? I don't want to say it out loud because it's become a bad word. Okay? That's what that is. Planting seeds in the ground. It's using a stick, put the seed in the ground, cover up the seed. That's what that practice ritual is called, for planting crops. So they blow our minds. We don't know the language.
Okay, can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Because every time I tell somebody something about my next, where you get that from? So where do you get that from?
Where did I get what from?
That information about
This right here?
Yeah.
This I first heard this from Dr. White about 9 years ago. I got a tape we were looking at. It's about the elder. It's called the Elder Brothers Warning. There's some people living in the Sierra Madres, look like us, got straight black hair. They've been up there way before Cristobal Colon and Fernando, what's his name? De Soto came over here. And they live up in these mountains looking down on all these modern cities. They never come down off these mountains. So they invited the BBC over there. And they took, there was a warning them, hey, look, y'all blowing it. Y'all are not taking care of the earth. The earth is your mother. Okay? It used to snow up here in the wintertime. And then when the snow melts in the summertime, we have fresh drinking water. It don't do that no more. But y'all do. Y'all ain't taking care of the earth. And in that video, you'll see this woman plant the seeds, dirt back over. And that's what Dr. Mike was trying to tell me. And if you understand it, you put the seeds in Mother Earth. Okay. Isn't that what's happening? But they made it a bad way.
Right. They have reversed everything.
Reversed it. Okay.
Wow. And now we're coming to some spiritual understanding, because this is what that energy of Gemini represents. So right now is the time to access, understanding, spiritual understanding. See?
Thank you for letting me speak.
We thank you for that contribution. So, because it definitely demonstrates, what we're talking about. See? Understanding. And a lot of that is going to be going on now. Take advantage of that sun, because the sun represents the focus. Represents what's being highlighted. Wherever you see the sun, that's what's being focused on. So right now, the sun, that energy, is focusing on us coming to an understanding.
But they keep telling us to stay out of the sun.
Telling who to stay out of the sun?
They were like, make sure
They who?
rays and
No, but excuse me, they who?
they them.
Where do you get this information? Where do you get this information?
Well, the news and all. I mean, you can see how
do
the sun.
do we have a black TV radio stations putting out information for black people?
Well, they say something different.
No, that's for
And
them.
remember this,
That's
and what did I say? Whatever they tell you, you do just the opposite.
That's right.
Because they're feeding you that because they want you to, they're trying to direct.
Within reason. Because they also, they play tricks.
They the trickery, master of trickery. But if they say stay out of the sun, then I would be going trying to find all the sun I could.
Well,
insane for a black person.
what? Because they told me that I have multiple sclerosis, right? And the first thing that they told me was stay out of the heat, don't take hot, and I love hot baths, and stay out of the sun. Because every summer, you can ask my daughter, I sit in the sun because I want to get a tan. They think I'm crazy. But I know that multiple sclerosis is a disease that affects mostly them. Well, now it's getting us, but it started out being them. So, of course, they couldn't sit out in the sun. But they still keep saying, don't sit in the sun, don't sit in the sun, don't sit in the sun.
That's their primary diagnosis. That's what they tell.
Right.
That's what they tell any patient.
Right. Dr.
But all that's geared for them, not
them.
for us.
Dr. Impufu, I think I got that right.
Joe Pukum?
Yes,
Pukum.
Pukum. That's right.
Pukum.
Pukum.
Yes.
Okay, she gets into that. I have a tape where she talks about that. She talks about the hospitals that are geared for them. It's not geared for us. She talks about if you, she used an analogy of a dress store. If you go to a dress store that says we only sell size 9 and you wear a size 16, you want to go in that store. You understand that you're going in there regardless of the fact that they're serving only size 9. This is the analogy she made between the dress store and the hospital. They're not for us. She said that she of Mars and of the hero. In the late Bronze Age, heroes in Greece invaded in India, attacked the sacred groves and of the great goddess. Those heroes on horseback. These princes in their solar chariots wrested control from the local rulers. They also destroyed the fertility cults whose priestesses and oracles supported in the old dynasties. In mainland Greece, heroes like Persephone invaded the sacred shrine of Medusa, protectress of Lady Althea, and destroyed her ritual mask, broke the sanctuary, and drove out her priestesses. They had succeeded in ending the ritual sacrifice of young prince, and by substituting a sacrificial sheep or lamb for the prince, had protected the institution of kingship. Patriarchy replaced mother right in the late Bronze and early Iron Age, and priests replaced priestesses. Heroic myths about warrior princesses
defeating dragon lady monsters, revealed that they believed that they were delivering the countryside from bloodthirsty demonists who laid waste the land. They believed that power had passed from the older goddesses to their own newer divinities, and that their solar or masculine worldview was more orderly and rational. See, so this is when we went into the solar rule, into the solar rule from the lunar rule, from the mother rule into the, and it's all about cycles, you guys. If you look at this chart here, you know, if you look up here, this will represent the masculine half. This is the feminine down here. Or this is the masculine over here, and this is the feminine over here. So it's all about the cycles, you see. So when we come out of the feminine, which is the moon, make that cycle around, and we're talking ages now here, and you come into the masculine rule when you crossed over that line here. So it's about a cycle of energy, it's about a cycle, and we moved into the masculine side of the rotation. That's what that's symbolic of, okay? It says the age of Aries then brought about a dramatic change in symbolism from the lunar feminine to the solar masculine. The Aryan age was a period of violent, heroic activity, of feats of dare-doing. It says Aries energy is like the sun's ray, clear or conscious, frank, direct, obvious, full of light and heat, and visible to all. Though all three fire signs are solar in nature, Aries is the most exuberant, just as spring is the most exuberant season. Thus, astrologers say that the sun is exalted in Aries. An exuberant planet in an exuberant sign leads to an exalted personality, you see. So, so we're looking at the fire element. And when I say we're stepping up to our warriorship to rule, you see, you look at the other fire sign, Leo, and then you look at Sagittarius, you see. And so they are in harmony with each other. That energy is in harmony with each other. Leo represents the ruler, the creative rulership, you see. So stepping up, this is actually, Aries is actually the power behind the creative rulership, which is the spiritual rulership, you see. And then Jupiter would actually expand and open up that rulership to encompass as many people as it can. In other words, it spreads that rulership, you know, and no bounds. It continues to spread it and spread it and spread it, because Sagittarius is like the explorer, adventurer of the zodiac. So it's going to continue to explore new grounds, you know, to extend that rulership into. And the thing about Aries, though, the thing about Leo being the ruler, Leo is also the sign that deals with your joys. In other words, it's a righteous rulership when we're looking at the rulership of Leo, because it deals with your creativity, your pleasures, and looking at its opposite sign, Aquarius, we're going to be dealing with, when we look at Aquarius, we're dealing with the humanitarian, you see. So when we put these two together, we have a righteous rulership for humanity, you see. So we're looking at reversing things and bringing in a spiritual rulership versus the physical rulership that we've been subjected to, you see. And it's time for us to make our claim on that rulership and step up, you know, and know who we are, know how to activate our power, our spiritual power, which comes from within, you see. And wherever we focus our energy is what we will open up and energize, or what we will create, you see. So we have to step up to that rulership and heal Mother Earth, you see. So with a righteous rulership. It says here, see. It says an exuberant planet in an exuberant sign leads to an exalted personality. The sun is the only I am planet, and Aries is the I am sign. The archetypical Aries takes pride at being on earth in that physical form or body, pride in him or herself and in his or her creative capacity. his or her drive to fulfill his desire in the outside world. Let us consider the glyphs of Aries and for Mars, the mundane ruler. Aries is the ram's horn and the battering ram. Aries make a place for himself in a crowd or in a waiting line. He lets the restaurant hostess knows I'm here. Aries represents the irresistible force. It says Aphrodite is opposite Mars, just as Aries is 100 degrees across the wheel from Libra. An undeveloped Aries, a young child or one who hasn't studied or observed others' social behavior, you will use the word I, a solar and a Mars word too often, you see. If you'll notice Aries, they do use the word I a lot, you see. I. You know, because they are the sign of I am, you see. And they're the very first sign of the zodiac, so they represent the baby of the zodiac. So, you know, it's just like a baby, you know, is looking at their needs before anyone else's, okay? So it's that type of Aries energy, you know, that baby energy just bringing birth or coming into the world. And so it's about my needs, you know. And so that's why you hear a lot of lower level Aries, you know, will be very, see this house here, the first house that Aries rule is the house of personal actions. So it's all about your personal actions. When you're dealing in the Aries area or with the Aries energy, it's about my own personal power, okay? And that's why it's in opposition to Libra, which is about partnership. So we're going to look at I am, my power, and then my power in relation to my partner. And how do we form equal and fair partnerships, you see, and both of us be allowed to use our personal power, you know, our Aries energy. It says the Aries who is a battering ram in his career relationship will often be a gentle lamb at home, a true innocent when it comes to relating to the opposite sex. The glyph for Mars is the biological symbol for the male sex. Many people whose Aries energy manifests at the mundane level alone identify with Mars, with their libido and the senses with their body drives and instincts. Now, most people think that Scorpio is the sexual sign of the zodiac, but it's Aries, okay? Aries is the sexual sign because of its planetary ruler, Mars, which is the sexual energy. So, you know, what happens is Scorpio is in a house that deals in a sexual area, you see, of bonding. So sometimes, you know, that can equate. And also, Mars is a co-ruler for Scorpio, you see, so it'll have some of the effects, you know, of what the Mars energy would do. So that's how it got its reputation. But because of Scorpio's intensity, you know, it kind of pretty much overshadowed the Aries claim to that fame. But it says the military attracts many Aries, men or women. You know, you'll find a lot of Aries in the military, martial arts, you know, any form of war. You know, it's not a coincidence that as we moved into the Aries energy, what do we have over there? Jerusalem, you know, war has just broken out, you see. This is just giving you a view of how that Aries energy is manifesting itself. It's the energy of war, you see. So we're looking at that, you see. Now, let me see, it's this. Okay. And now, what we need to understand, though, is how does that Aries energy show up for you, you see. Now, I put this chart up here. I have what we call a Aries rising, okay? So that